Hey guys, welcome back to the show. We are really excited to be back. I know we had a little break last week. This week's guest is a amazing mom. She's a super entrepreneur powerhouse. She runs a great business called Sage Spoonfuls. She was also a star in the soap opera Passions back in the day. We were really excited to have her on the show, and Eddie blew up my spot by letting everyone know how excited I was to have her on because I was a big fan of the show. We are real excited to have you listen to this episode because it was great resources. She brought a really great energy to the episode, so we're super pumped to have you listen to it. So please stay tuned and enjoy this episode with Liza Huber.
And if you really enjoy this episode, please leave a review and share it with a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, Eddie Gagnon! And in the opposite corner, Kristen Gagnon! This is What's Special About Special.
I wanted to say that.
Well, hello there. My name's Eddie Gagnon.
Eddie, I don't want to be here all night.
Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name's Eddie Gagnon. That was perfect. Kristen.
Your voice. So we want to welcome Liza Huber from Sage Spoonfuls. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are super excited. Every time I say that,
excited.
It sounds not excited, but I am super excited.
I know. It's palpable on this side. It's insane. Like, I'm like a dog, so I'm just like feeling off of it. I'm very excited as well. So,
love it.
But the anticipation is killing me.
Well, I think because originally I was excited to have you on as a guest and was like, I hope Liza would want to come on as a guest because you find other moms in this community like throughout different portals in different ways. And, you know, we found each other through iFund Women and through our connections that way. And it's rare to find another mom who I think is like juggling lots of hats, who also lives in this little community world that we're in and shares the same experiences no matter what they might be. And so I kind of found you that way. And then really just was like, oh, she looks so familiar. And Eddie was like, I don't know. And I know her from somewhere. She must be from something else. Like she must have done something else before this. And we used your products when our kids were smaller. And so I'm like, I know I use these, but I don't think I saw her face before. And then I was like, she was on Passions. I saw something you posted where you were on Passions. And I was like, I watched Passions when I was in high school and college, like obsessively every day after school. I was like, I have to watch Passions. I have to get home to watch Passions.
Dude, you erupted.
I loved it.
It was the best job. It was so fun. We were all so young, and it was like going to work, but like in a college dorm. I mean, my dressing room was right next to Eric Martzoff's, which was across from Andrea Evans. And we would all go to the commissary and get our salads and hamburgers, and like the cast of Seinfeld. Was it Seinfeld? Not Seinfeld. It was, oh my gosh, I can't even remember, but that 70s show filmed on our lot, like Will and Grace. And we would just like bring our cheeseburgers back to our room, and Eric and I would listen to like Neil Diamond. I mean, laugh. It was so fun. We would have our Neil Diamond lunches, and it was just the most fun job ever. I'm so grateful for those years.
Well, it must have been like a college dorm because I feel like everybody was so young on that cast too.
We were so young. I was 22 when it started. I mean, remember Lindsay Hartley was like 19. And we all kind of grew up together. When we started, we were so young. And then when the show finished, we were all married, had babies. Like it was just a time I would never trade in for anything.
What a fun experience. I feel like that you have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Just like,
and it was a fun show. It was hilarious. Like you never knew what you were going to walk into.
Well, exactly. It's like, I feel like when I talk to anyone, like I still watch General Hospital, like faithfully to this day. I've watched it since I was a little kid with my grandmother. I think that's what soap operas are. You watch them. Like I watched all the ABC soaps with my grandmother and my mother.
Like a tradition.
Yeah, it's a good tradition. It's like what you do. You grow up watching them. You keep watching them as you get older. And then Passions came on and I was like, oh, this is like for me. Like, this is like my generation's like soap opera that I can watch. It was like the best. It was like everyone was young on the cast and it was like a sillier plot line and everything. It wasn't so serious. There wasn't so much it was drama, but different drama. It was great.
It was so campy. We had a blast.
Yes.
I'm so glad you loved it.
It was fun. Yeah. I miss those days. I feel like we need something like that nowadays with all the COVID and the stress and the drama, like the negative. We need like a fun, campy show that everyone just gets behind.
Well, you did say I should go out, like, to be a soap opera star, right?
So you should.
So that's like the next plan, the next step for us.
We're
just trying to get this like off the ground, so that way I can get kind of like a little following, and then boom, I'm gonna be right.
He's a star.
Like, okay, yeah, because the ultimate goal, of course, would be in General Hospital, but like I'll settle for like, is One Life to Live still on?
No,
I'll settle for One Life to. Oh, they're not even.
That is So that's the transition here. We'll cut this out if you want, but One Life to Live, all my children are not on anymore.
There's
just General Hospital.
4 left. General Hospital, Days Young and Restless, Days of Our Lives.
And there's like one on each network. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. You're crazy.
So if you want to do it, you better do it quick,
you better get
Eddie.
moving. And you need
to
I'll bring it back. Watch, I'll come and I'll bring a new life to it, and then the soap operas will take off again. And then I'll hop to each one, bringing them back,
You're crazy.
It'll be great.
Anyways.
So
tell us your personal story. So Sage Spoonfuls, we know, is like baby food. It started as a homemade baby food system.
Right.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, before we get really into Sage Spoonfuls, because I know we used it as a baby food system when we were
I love that. I had no idea. I love that.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until, again, because when I first heard about you, it was just 2 moms. And I was like, oh, we have something in common. And then I realized you had Sage Spoonfuls and I was like, I know that logo. We totally had those squeezies. We call them squeegees. We have those squeezies here.
Love it.
So tell us your personal story a little bit. How are you connected to the community?
So actually Sage Spoonfuls and how I'm connected to this community is kind of intertwined. I mean, like we said, I was an actress on Passions for forever. And I had my first son, Royce, while I was on the show. And then about a year later, I was pregnant with Brendan. And Brendan is my son who has cerebral palsy. And I was 5 months pregnant with Brendan when Passions finished up. And then we moved back to New York. And I had every intention of going to, one of the New York-based soaps. Mm-hmm. But then Brendan was born 9 weeks premature. And of course, that was the game changer. So he was in the NICU for 6 weeks. We almost lost him on 2 different occasions. And I'm sure so many parents in your community understand what that's like. It's just, you just stop.
Yeah.
And I knew from that moment on that I was not going to go back to work in the traditional sense. And I had the idea for Sage Spoonfuls after Royce was born. And when I was working so much, I'd often be on a set at 6:30 in the morning and a lot of times working and not get home until 10 at night. So I knew I wanted to make his food. So I would always make his food and put it in the freezer, but there was no system and it was just a mess. And there were only these little cubes, which had BPA in them back in the day. There was still BPA in the plastics and It was just a mess. And I remember thinking in the back of my mind, there's got to be a better way to do this for busy working parents, or even just for all parents are busy, whether you're working or not. And, but I put the idea on the back burner. And then once Brendan came home and was stable, I still was thinking about the idea, and there was still a huge hole in the market. And I sat my husband down and I said, look, unbeknownst to you, I've done hundreds of hours of research. I'm going to make a huge life pivot here. And I basically pitched the idea to him and then to another family member as well. And they gave me some seed money to get started because I could work from home.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be at least a 2-year concept to creation. And what became, what was initially in my mind going to be kind of a little like independent, small boutique mom brand, kind of right out of the gate, because it really was so new, became a pretty hardy player in the space, like right off the bat. So it was Brendan, and it was really Brendan who was the catalyst to make the life change.
That's pretty awesome.
Go from actress to entrepreneur. Yeah. So I could be home with him.
Yeah. I think so many times moms, we make decisions that you wouldn't ever plan for your life. Like it's not something you say, oh, you know, and then I'm going to have kids and then I'm going to do this and this and this. And I'm going to work from home and I'm going to stay home and I'm going to have a plan and I'm going to quit my career and then I'm going to pivot. Like, you don't think when I have kids, I'm going to quit this career and do this other career. Like I feel like when you're younger, you're like, I'm going to have a career and that's going to be my career for the next 30, 40 years. Yeah, forever. But I know even for myself, like so many times I've pivoted and I'm still pivoting on a regular basis, just based on what our family needs are. And when you're younger, you're like, I can't even imagine that would be like the worst thing ever. But really, it's not. I feel like every time I look back, I'm like, that was the best decision I made. It can be
the best thing to happen to us as long as we leave ourselves open to life surprises and we allow ourselves to go with the flow instead of fighting against the flow.
Yes.
If you would have told me 10 years ago that manufacturing and the supply chain would be my passion, I would say, how do you get there? How do you get there? But I love it. I love making things. I love being creative. I love helping parents. And I'm my own customer as a mom of 4 young kids. And it's just a wonderful feeling to be able to have an idea in your head and then just see it come to life and to build a team and work together towards a common goal.
Was it a scary leap at that point? Like, it sounds like you had like, you know, you had your mindset and you were like, I'm doing all this research, and I've been there where like all of a sudden I get my mind into something and I don't do it minimal. I do everything like to the max. So if I have my mind on something, I'm going 100%. But it was when you finally were like, okay, and now we're doing this for real. And people, you know, you've talked to people and they're ready to give you seed money. Is that transition to really go for it? Is that a scary, like, were you like in full fear mode at that point?
No, I just, because if you're going to do something, you got to go all in and go full speed, or else what's the point?
Yeah.
So I had the idea, you know, we did a 2-year concept to creation. And in those 2 years I had Hayden and then was pregnant with Mason. So
just back to back.
Yeah. We had all 4 kids in like just under 6 years. And so I just did it. I just did it. And then, you know, boom, we launched. And 5 months later, we were nationwide and Bye Bye Baby. And I remember Victoria Beckham. I remember Perez Hilton. Like there was it was sort of like a TMZ.
Like a website.
I remember looking at Perez Hilton one day. Just to kind of like relax at the end of a day. And there was a picture of Victoria Beckham holding a Sage Spoonfuls cooler, and her little girl, Harper, was a baby. And I am telling you right now, I stared at that picture for like 4 hours and I couldn't believe it. And I remember turning to my husband, I said, oh my goodness, did I start a brand?
Yeah.
Wow. and so it was like 8 months in. After launch, when I was like, oh my gosh, like we were already, the train had left the station.
Yeah.
Victoria Beckham had our cooler. And I was like, whoa, am I smart enough? Do I have enough money? Do I know what I'm doing? And it's like, too late. Just believe in yourself and do it.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing. Everyone is scared.
Yeah.
There's not one successful person who isn't scared to some degree. But the differentiator is, do we let that hold us back, or do we just plow ahead? Yeah. You know, we just plow ahead.
Yeah.
Same thing with being a special needs parent. What are you going to do? Your child needs a crazy surgery to improve their life. Well, you just have to, you know, find the best surgeon and the best team and just plow ahead.
Yes.
I mean, Brendan just like got his feet rebuilt, and that's insane. But like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You do it because it's for them. My fear as a mom is not important.
No. Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I think there's so many times, and we said this on another episode, where so many times somebody has said to me, well, do you think, you know, you think it's your personality that like makes you kind of just go full force into research and find all these things for your kids, or you're so strong? And I'm like, no, I think it's just being a parent. You just don't have that in your world. Like, if these things were going on in your world, you would do the exact same thing we're doing. Yep. Like, it's just, Absolutely. This is our reality. So we're just going full force. We don't know anything different. You know, we woke up, we went for a gender ultrasound. They said, boom, this is what you've got for you. And we were like, okay, we don't really, what are our options? What else are we going to do? Say, we'll sit back and see what happens. Like you don't, it's just not an option.
Yeah. Not the best choice.
Yeah. You can't just like sit back and let the kid figure it out. Like I'm in control of the situation. I have to be in control at all times. Because if not, I'm watching them suffer.
Right. And in control as much as we can be. I mean, at some point, it's like we work and we choose the best team and the best therapist and the best, IEP and the best surgeons. And then, I mean, I remember in 2016 when Brendan had his selective dorsal rhizotomy, which is an insane surgery. It's, they take a vertebrae like off the body, which is bananas. They pull out the nerves from inside the spinal cord, more bananas. I mean, and then they I call them zappers. They're not zappers, but I call them zappers. For Brendan, he has spastic diplegia. So they put all these zappers on his legs and they were looking at the nerves from inside his spinal cord, like which nerves were overfiring.
They were troubleshooting his spine.
Troubleshooting, and then they would like clip them. I mean, so at that point, it's like, I've done my research. He's in the best hands ever. And now I'm going to throw my hands up to God, to the surgeons, to the powers that be. I've gone full force and now I need to chill and let everyone do what they're going to do.
Well, because otherwise it's just chaos, right? In your brain. I mean, otherwise you're having a panic attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
go full force, make your great choices for your child. And you do have to, it's hard to sometimes sit back and let other people kind of take the wheel for a little while who are trained and skilled and can do their thing. But man, some of these surgeries are just like, they definitely
I know.
test us. They test your faith for sure.
So many times I've had to be like, I'm just gonna have to go with my gut on this one and trust that my decision is the right decision.
Yeah.
And then be okay with that. And because what else can you do? I mean, I ultimately have to make those choices. Like now he's getting older. We have a couple surgeries that are coming up that we can say, how do you feel about this? And they're choice surgeries, so we can say, do you want this surgery? Because we can hold off and we can wait a couple years until you're ready. Like there's going to be a point where if it's detrimental to him, then we're going to just go for it.
Right.
But if this is a elective type thing, that's just going to be, for him, like one of them is straightening his legs. It's not affecting him one way or another, but if it's affecting him socially, okay.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. But he's like, I don't care. Well, then I'm not going to put you through a painful surgery where you're in 2 leg casts and you're in a wheelchair for 6 to 12 months.
Oh, that's a long time.
To make your legs look nicer. Like that's not, we're not even up for discussion unless one, it's hurting you. Like there's some future hurt in the, and this is going to affect you in the long run, or socially we're having an issue here. Otherwise, if he's like, I don't care. Okay. Like, I don't care if my legs are crooked. Okay. Like go with it. It's you. It's who you are. It's, it's what made you, you. I'm not going to argue it. We all have something.
That's so true. We all have something. Some you can see and some you can't.
Exactly. So, to transition a little, so you started, or to stay on the same topic, you started the Sage Spoonfuls because, you wanted to make this, wanted to make baby healthy foods for your children at home. But where did that come from? What was your childhood like? Like, did you grow up at home with homemade meals, healthy eating habits instilled from the start? Or is that something that you were like, I really want this inspiration? What inspired you to kind of go healthy eating for your kids?
It's kind of just always felt right to me. And we always, we want the best for our kids. Even if we don't always want the best for ourselves, we always want the best for our kids. So I did not know how to cook. I never cooked before I had kids. Probably the first thing I cooked was Royce's homemade applesauce. And you just figure it out. It was a decision I made. I knew it would be best for him. But I couldn't believe how hard it was to make it easy, because it really shouldn't be a big intimidating process. It's literally just pureeing fresh fruits and veggies. Yeah. It's not like preparing shrimp cocktail or anything like crazy. So it was really just, your mother's instinct to want to give your child the healthiest food. But because I worked so much, I could not cook on demand. So I really had to piece together a way to make it work for me. And I knew that there had to be a better way, because if I'm feeling this way, there must be other parents who are also feeling this way.
Exactly. Oh, I also feel like as a parent, I mean, I was in that situation, especially with Annabella, when she was little. I made the decision I'm going to stay home with her for a little bit, and I'm going to try to do that. In my head, I was so young. I was like, I'm going to do this thing where all of a sudden I'm not going to be focused on working and going all the time, and I'm just going to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm going to make my own food, and I'm going to be a great wife. And that was a crazy idea because that's just not my personality, and I need to be like going all the time. Actually, it was healthier going all the time than I was staying home all the time. But because I didn't have anything keeping me going, I was just there with my kid, and we weren't keeping busy. We weren't doing anything. But in my brain, I was like, I'm going to make sure, my biggest thing was I was going to make sure I had healthy food for her. But then I did start going back to work, and we were keeping really, really busy. And it is so easy when it is a lot of work to make sure you have healthy food. And even when they started going to school, like preschool and stuff, I wanted to make sure I was sending them with healthy meal choices. And when it's difficult to like get all that together and have everything going and have a good system, it is so much easier to just go, oh, well, this on the shelf is just easy to grab.
It's so true. And I think that, I mean, for all children, it's important to give them the healthiest start to life. But I think that when you get a rough start, like, our children did,
yes,
I think they need the nutrition even more to just jam them with as much nutrients as possible so they can grow as strong as possible.
Well, I think that, I know for me, like, especially with Eddie, it was like, okay, so he's got some other stuff going on. Let's focus on making sure he's strong and healthy and his brain is going as best as possible. I want to give him, like you said, the best start possible.
Absolutely. And also there's a lot of physical pain that can go along with so many children, who have special needs. And so I thought, and Brendan, like his body was really tight all the time from the cerebral palsy. And I thought, you know what? This is actually one of the few things he can enjoy right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not giving him some nasty food from a jar. This kid is like in pain and his body feels weird 24/7. Like I'm giving him a fresh banana.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the least I can do.
For sure. Now, how'd you come up with the name Sage Spoonfuls? What inspired that?
I love this question. So again, funny how life, you got to leave yourself open. I was absolutely sold on and married to the name Mommy's Kitchen. Oh my gosh, I love the name so much. Mommy's Kitchen, Mommy's Kitchen. I was so ready. There was this dude in New Jersey who owned mommyskitchen.com, and he was not giving it up. He didn't do anything with it. He was not giving it up unless I gave him $8,000. And I was like,
my goodness.
I'm not giving you $8,000. I don't even have $8,000. And I was like, all right, I have no idea what I'm going to call this thing, but I know it's not going to be Mommy's Kitchen because I'm not giving this guy $8,000. And like 5 nights later, I shot up at 2 a.m. with the idea of Sage Spoonfuls. That was it. I ran to the computer, the URLs, the trademarks, like everything was available. And of course, now sitting back as an experienced business owner, the name Mommy's Kitchen is crazy limiting.
Yeah.
And Sage Spoonfuls is just so much of a better name. So it's just like, it's amazing how your brain just like moves and percolates things and it just hits you.
That's so funny.
I don't know where my brain came up with it. There was no thought process that I'm aware of. It just 2 a.m. Boom, done.
It is a great name though, because you can go so many places with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't limit you at all to food. It doesn't limit you at all to babies or parents or anything. You can really expand it everywhere, but it still holds true to what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm grateful to the dude in New Jersey, the Mommy's Kitchen guy who wouldn't give it up.
Now he's going to be looking for his $8,000 in that way.
Keep your website. That's cute.
So, a lot of special needs parents are forced to make their own food for their children out of necessity for dietary restrictions, allergies. Do you find that your products are helping a lot of these families?
I do. And we hear a lot from parents and caregivers in the special needs community that our system really makes it easy for them. And that's just the greatest thing in the world for me to hear. I mean, because you hope that what you're putting out into the world is going to do the good that it intended to. And another community we hear from is on the way other end of the spectrum, which is the elderly community. A lot of people in that community, like the adult children, will say, you know what, we're using your blender and your larger jars to puree, like, roast chicken and mashed potatoes and gravy and peas. My dad loves them, but he can't chew, or he needs to have pureed food. So it's just, it's become this go-to system for both ends of the spectrum. And it just makes it easier. I mean, giving our children, our babies, our loved ones, healthy food should not be a big, huge ordeal. It really, I mean, a lot of the store-bought baby food companies, it makes me so upset, because the main nugget of their marketing is that making your own baby food or making food for your kids takes too long.
Yeah.
It just takes too long. It's a whole big deal. You can't do it. You don't have time. Let us do it. Like, stop it, please. Sometimes, sure. Sometimes those things have a place. Absolutely. But it is processed food. It's processed food, whether it's organic, whatever, it's still processed. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, we all enjoy McDonald's every now and then. But do we eat processed food for every meal, every day?
Right.
No. Why on earth would we do that for our babies? A lot of parents don't realize that even the most expensive organic food in the pouches, it has to be sterilized to have a shelf life of 2 years. And that process removes over 50% of the nutrients, and the manufacturers artificially add it back in. And for whatever reason, they're not obligated to tell the consumer. And there's a huge difference in the way the body reacts to natural nutrients and vitamins and artificial and synthetic nutrients and vitamins. And I am a firm believer that is a huge reason why we have so many food allergies and intolerances, and God only knows what else.
I think you made such a great point when you said, like, we like McDonald's or we like something every once in a while, but we're not eating that every day for every meal. And the biggest part of that is also at the most important brain development part of our lives. And we're feeding them something that's processed for every meal, sometimes more than 3 times a day. It's not like they're having just 3 meals a day. Little ones are snacking, and they're having, when they're babies, they're having sometimes 4, 5, 6 meals. Like, you're giving them food so many times a day, and it's all processed.
It's all processed. And the other problem is, because it is processed, that's why it never tastes, looks, or smells the same as the real thing. Mm-hmm. And then a steady diet of that also leads to picky eating.
Yes.
And I always give this example. If you're at a restaurant and you order something and you are like, this is horrible, I do not like this, I don't like the way it was prepared, I don't like it. Even if someone tells you, like, the restaurant down the road makes it great, your taste buds, you're already kind of ruined on this meal, and you're kind of not willing to try it somewhere else. And it's the same thing with babies. If we're giving them brown, over-processed peas that taste and smell disgusting that you wouldn't eat, why, when they're 2 or 3 years old, would we expect them to love peas when unfortunately they've been introduced to, some processed peas? So that's kind of my philosophy, is to make it easy, because we are all so busy these days, whether you're a working parent, a stay-at-home parent, and we're all working stay-at-home parents these days, to just make it easy. I mean, I used to pour a giant goblet of wine on a Sunday when everyone was asleep, and I'd make a month worth of baby food, because it's just so easy. You don't need to measure anything or follow a recipe. You can just mix whole foods together. And that's the way I wrote my book. That's easy, where you're just mixing whole foods together. So you can just make a ton in 10 or 15 minutes, or pour yourself a drink and spend an hour and make a month's worth. Yeah. It doesn't need, it can be it is a more enjoyable process than a lot of people realize. I believe it was the 1940s when all of this, you're going to hurt your baby, you don't know how to feed them, or you're too busy, or we know better than you, this marketing, and it's gotten ingrained in everyone's brain. Oh, I'm going to do something wrong. I'm going to do something wrong. Yes. I don't have the time. They're right. I don't have the time. And it's literally so ingrained in our brains that if you stop for a second, I can take a fork and mash a banana there, I can do it, or an avocado, or put it in a blender. I mean, it's just, if you get out of the marketing that's been ingrained in all of our brains for so long. I mean, this was at the same time they were marketing, 7-Up for babies,
right?
Soda.
So now tell me, with that being said, tell us, for those of us that haven't used, I mean, I have, but tell us, for those that haven't used Sage Spoonfuls, how do your products work? What makes them so much easier than just doing it yourself without the products?
So when you have a system and like a go-to system, it's really easy because we have a blender that was specially designed to make baby food. You know, it's makes a puree, it makes a mash, it makes a chunky. Here's everything I need. You know, I like consistency. I like ease of use. I like quality. So that's what it is. We give you a system, the grab and go system with our jars, grab and go. Basically, you know, you just put the food in the jar or the Sage Squeezy. You know, you don't need to put, you know, slop bag and put it in something else and put it in something like that's a hassle. Plus you're contaminating the food by touching it so much.
Right.
With Sage spoonfuls, you put it from the blender to the container and you never touch it again. And you put it in the freezer because the homemade baby food is good for up to 3 months in the freezer or up to 3 days in the fridge. And you just grab the jar and you serve them from the jar or the squeezy and you never have to touch the food again. It's a one-step process. Grab and go, and you don't need to, it's not a hassle. We take the hassle out of it. And for parents who maybe it's their first baby or they're a little bit nervous, you know, my book, Simple Recipes, Healthy Meals, Happy Babies, it takes the intimidation factor out of it completely. Because I wrote the book, the way I made the food is different than any other baby food book out there. It's about single, simple whole foods.
Well, I think the thing that, like, I love the fact that, like, when you say, like, your blender, it's different than just using, like, my regular blender because you can cater it towards your child. Like, you know, maybe when your kid's younger, you need it much more pureed. Well, then as they get older, you can make it chunkier. I mean, I think was a great part of it is, like, when our kids are younger, all of a sudden in a snap, they're in a different stage.
Yeah.
So true.
You don't even know that's happening. And then all of a sudden they're ready for a different texture of food. And you're like, oh, I want to try this. You can try it right at home, right there. You don't have to go buy a bunch of different things at the store, see if they like to taste that one, like to taste this one. Now you're just throwing stuff in the trash. Like and I think the biggest part that people don't realize, just to kind of bring it back of what you had mentioned about picky eaters, if you're sitting down to dinner and you're having mashed potatoes and peas and chicken or whatever you're having, you have a toddler sitting, or almost a toddler, you have, like, you know, a new eater sitting right next to you. You want them wanting to eat the same thing that's on your plate.
Exactly.
Hey, Eddie, temperatures are dropping and that means fall is here.
And fall means football and cheese plates and apps and couch potatoes.
And we spend all weekend watching football and just relaxing. So I definitely do not want to go grocery shopping.
Did you know what would make that easier?
What?
Instacart delivers groceries in as fast as 1 hour. They connect you with a personal shopper in your local area to shop and deliver groceries from your favorite stores.
Instacart is offering our listeners free delivery on your first order over $35. So listeners, by following the link in our show notes, and we really hope that you do, you'll be letting Instacart know that we sent you and you'll be supporting our show. So you've transitioned a little bit from, you know, making baby food to looks like some lunch options for older kids.
Yeah, we heard pretty quickly from our customer base that, you know, they wanted more from us. They wanted more than just, you know, baby food. They wanted to stay with the brand. So we really, about 2 years in, started developing Mealtime Essentials for toddlers and bigger kids too. And we have this wonderful Silly Elephant Plate. Our Silly Elephant Plate was really inspired by Brendan and the CP community because it is made of silicone and it's really sturdy, but it also suctions to the table or the counter or the high chair. And it is the strongest suction of any suction plate that you can find on the market. Even our 13-year-old can't rip it off. You really need to stick your finger under the thing. And it really helps promote independent and productive self-feeding. I mean, that's so, so important. Independence is everything, especially for special needs kids. And the Silly Elephant is really the ideal plate to help those children productively self-feed.
Yeah, I definitely, and I'm sure like it's helping with those fine motor skills. It's helping them really grow in that way. That's definitely needed for any age, really, probably struggling.
Yeah, it's perfect to learn how to scoop because it only has 2 compartments instead of 5. So it helps you learn to scoop. It helps you learn your pincher grasp, and the plate stays put. So it really helps. It's a really wonderful tool for all kids, but especially for special needs kids learning to self-feed.
That's awesome. So what is your favorite recipe to make right now?
So I'm going to be honest. I went through a big cooking drought. I've been so busy that I went through a big cooking drought, and I said, something has got to happen, because now there's 4 kids. I've got 1 teenager, huge appetite, business is like exploding, like life is crazy. And so I did like the Hello Fresh Sunbasket purple carrot scenario. And I'm liking it because I love to cook, but I don't have time to meal plan or shop. So that's my thing. So like, I love chicken tikka masala. I love that. I love roast chicken and veggies. I love making smoothies. They're so easy. And I want to start baking again. I mean, because work cannot like take over our life. Yeah. And I was letting it kind of take over a little bit, and I had to pull myself back, because we could work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and there's still more work to do, but you blink and your kids are out of the house. Yep. So my husband and I we're both just total workaholics. He always said, you got to know when to say when. And I stop my day at 6 PM, and I'm there for them and cooking and enjoying cooking again.
I think we've been the same way. I think COVID's made it worse almost, even though we've been conscious and tried to do more time together on the weekends or this. But at the same time, it's so when you're working from home and you have such a space right here, I can wake up in the morning and I just right to work. And then it's so easy to just get right back to work. Like there's no stopping. There's no break. I'm not taking breaks. I'm not eating lunch. When I go to a physical office, I'm conscious that everyone's taking a lunch, or that, does somebody want to go take a 15-minute break, or I have to go to the bathroom. I'm walking upstairs to another office. I'm not doing any of that here. I'm so sedentary. There's no release of a break. I just today, I was like, I could just say I can take my lunch and I'm going to go for a walk with little Eddie.
Yeah, totally good.
Get outside. Get outside.
And it's so good. It's so good. I actually don't mind working from my garage, because I leave the door open. Like, you get some fresh air. I had some chipmunks run in the other day. It's just, it's also hard too, because your kids don't understand that you're working. They think you're home.
Yes.
And now Brendan, having just had his feet rebuilt and he's in casts, he can't wait there for 6 weeks. I mean, what are you going to, every time he has to go to the bathroom. So I have to carry him. So I have baby monitors, around. So he's, I was in the middle of a huge Zoom meeting earlier, and he's screaming, I got to go to the bathroom. So, I'm like, I'll be right back, guys. It's just, awesome. We're all in the same boat, and we're all just doing the best we can.
I think it's a new normal now. Like in the past, I think if a parent was working from home and was interrupted, it was like this thing where everyone was like, oh no. Now it's just understand it. Oh, okay. Well, don't worry. We'll see you in a sec. Like, it's just such a different, you have a cute kid. Like, it's just such a different energy. And I'm like, good.
I love it. I love it. I mean, my husband was on a call because his company is based in California. So it was like a Friday night. It was like 8 p.m. So it was only 5 p.m. for California, but he was on a call. I was like, you know what? It is 8 p.m. on a Friday, and I'm going to make a drink. And I popped into his Zoom, and I was like, there's going to be a blender in a sec.
Yeah, it's just a different environment, different energy. So where do you see Sage Spoonfuls growing into now?
So we have so many wonderful plans for Sage Spoonfuls. I mean, in the short term, we're launching actually a ton of new products over the next 6 months. And we're also going into different areas of the juvenile product space as well, like expanding outside of Mealtime as well. I'm actually also going to be starting a YouTube show where I'm going to be interviewing moms who I think are amazing and who have great stories to tell, and exploring other avenues and other products and different ways to grow the brand, and really start looking into giving back to the CP community in a meaningful way. It's very, very important to me.
I think that's great. I mean, I think for sure. I mean, your Instagram is like one of my favorites. It's so much fun. I always think, how does she have time for all this? Like, I'm never like, I'm always like, well, I should make an Instagram story. And I'm like, like,
but you know,
so
it's like anything else. It's just doing it, right? Because who has time? None of us has time for anything. It's just like, once you start, you just like put the camera on yourself and like do it.
I know. But then I'm like, oh, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way the lighting is.
Throw a filter on it.
I know.
Filter on it.
I know.
Dude.
I gotta get better.
God. Can you turn off all the lights like in the city? Like,
turn the lights off in the whole city, please. I think that's exciting. I can't wait to see what comes of it and where you guys go. And I'm definitely, we'll be following you guys because we have been for so long, and I'm super pumped to see what happens. So we ask all.
Well, no, okay, we have a confession. I'm sorry. Like, it was like 6 months ago because I got into like a crazy cleaning thing, and we threw away those squeezy.
We had to get rid of them at this point. We've had them for so long.
Yeah, they were super old.
They weren't pretty.
We threw them away.
We should have donated them.
I'm sorry.
Well, but you know what?
No,
though?
I did.
They have
like, technically threw them away. I donated them.
Each one can be used about 50 times. So they take the plate. Like, they're not indefinite forever, like a glass jar or something. So you did the right thing. I mean, after you wash it like a million times, it's time for new ones. Yes. That's why they're not expensive.
Exactly. Yeah. Or our kids just don't eat use them anymore. Like they've outgrown them.
No, that's
they don't
what I was
want
saying
them.
when you were like, why'd you throw those out?
I know. I try to save everything.
Why did you get rid of those? We use those. Eddie would still use those.
He might.
What's wrong with you?
I'll send you some new ones. We have some awesome new patterns and stuff launching very soon.
He might change. He gets back into things. Like now he's asking for applesauce all the time. He's 8. His fine motor's not great though. So he like has trouble opening things. Like he doesn't like the applesauces in a little cup or jars. Like he doesn't want to open anything. And then I always want them to be able to just grab a snack, especially now that they're home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Before they were at school, so I didn't have to worry. But like when they're at home, I'm like, I think he asked me like 400 times a day, can I have a snack? Can I have a banana? Can I have an apple? Can I have it? I'm like, yeah, let me get it. I'll cut it up for you. I'm like, but if they can just grab it.
That's excellent. I love that they're asking for fruit. Mason is like, can I have a chipwich? Can I have a chipwich? I only had one today. Can I have a chipwich?
Listen.
Well, she's saying apple and banana because it's like they've blown through their like
in the shoes. Oh my God.
No, he has an apple because he's had a bag of chips. A Rice Krispie. Like he's already tried the other snacks and he knows he's not going to get that out of me. Yep. So then he's asking for the apple and the banana. But I didn't want to make myself look that terrible. It's been easier though. Lately I'm like,
you got to be real with the people, Kristen. You can't.
Got to be real with the people. And you know what? Because there is not one person alive who is like every bite their child has is super healthy. I mean, oh my goodness. Yeah. My kids had a frozen pizza tonight. And you know what? We put some fresh spinach on top and it's a win.
Yeah. There you go.
We always try to throw some. We actually, every time most of the time, we like try to throw something on. But sometimes I'm just like, I don't have time for this. I'm tired. This is what you're eating. But like a reality is if I try to get them to eat healthy 90% of the time, then the other 10%, I don't feel so guilty about.
Oh my gosh, that's a huge win. I have this kind of saying, something fresh and real with every meal. And it doesn't need to be fancy. If you're doing a PB&J, throw a handful of grapes. Done. It's raw. It's antioxidant rich. It's great. Carrots, like, cucumbers, sweet peppers, anything. Just like we have our happy foodie plates that have 3 compartments. So the smile goes for the main meal. And then the 2 littler compartments are to remind you, put a fresh fruit and a fresh veggie in it. And it just grab it and put it in. You don't need to cut it, do anything to it fancy. Just throw it in there. Something fresh and real with every meal.
I love that. And fresh and real with every meal. I like that. We're going to say that every time now.
It's a good one.
I like it. Holds them accountable. It's a big win in our house.
Do you want that to be a song? We'll give it a project.
Annabelle will make a song out of it. I know.
That's so cute. That's so cute.
So we ask all our guests, if you had 30 seconds to speak to our community, what advice would you give them?
So I think that sharing your story is so beneficial to the special needs community and also to yourself. You don't even realize how important it is to share your story. When we shared Brendan's story and his cerebral palsy journey, I mean, we didn't talk about it really until he was 7 years old. And because I didn't want to, I wasn't sure where the line was between sharing the story for information and throwing his privacy under the bus, but then I thought, okay, hold on a second. If we don't share his story and talk about it, is he going to feel like any kind of shame or weird that it's like this family secret? Like, that's crazy. So we found a way to just share our experiences and share our story and share our journey. And what we got in return was actually such a gift to us, because we wound up sharing on a very big stage. I mean, we were on Dr. Oz. I mean, talk about kind of baptism by fire. I mean, you're not like telling your best friend, you know, on Dr. Oz. And it wound up being the first time in the 9 years that Dr. Oz was on the air that he ever even spoke about cerebral palsy. And after that aired, I got hundreds of emails from parents, from grandparents of children with cerebral palsy. And so many of them told me about the selective dorsal rhizotomy. And I wound up becoming genuine friends with two of the people who had written to me. One was a mom who was a physical therapist whose daughter was only 1 year younger than Brendan. And she was like, look, can I can I email you some information? And we wound up talking. And I said, I've heard about Dr. Park at St. Louis Children's Hospital and the selective dorsal rhizotomy. I've known about it since Brendan was 2, but it's scary. It's really scary. And so and now at this point, Brendan was 7, and she wound up really talking me through the process. She said, it can change his life. It changed my daughter's life. At the very least, just fly out there, have a consultation. And she was right. And so while I know, or at least I would hope, that we were able to shed some light and awareness on cerebral palsy, on our platform, like such a gift was given to me and ultimately to Brendan, because I would not have considered that surgery if, I wouldn't have made those connections. Yeah. And then a few years later, in the waiting room for a follow-up, a woman came to me and she said, "Are you Liza?" And her daughter was 3 and she had her AFOs up to her knees. She said, "Are you Liza?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I'm here because of you." Wow. And we both just started crying. And, and her daughter wound up getting the SDR from Dr. Park, and it changed her life. So, the woman who wrote to me shared her story with me. We got the surgery. It changed Brendan's life. I shared that story. Then Joanna wound up seeing it, and it just, so I know that's longer than the 30 seconds. No, it's great. I feel like, don't be afraid to share your story, because it's important, not only for other people, but also for yourself.
I think for sure. I think, the biggest part of that is you don't even really, those are the people you've touched, and that you've made this domino effect, trickle down effect on each other. But imagine how many people you haven't connected with that you're also trickling down to, or also making a domino effect in their lives. It's unknowing, but it could be, it's so large for sure.
It's so large. And it's so important that as parents, we know that we're not alone. I mean, when Brendan was 5, all I wanted was to meet another mom whose child was 10 years ahead of Brendan.
We say that all the time. Yeah.
That's all I want. And of course, every child is different, but what is this going to look like? Is he going to be okay? I mean, I have 10,000 questions, and now I have such a wonderful support community. But up until Brendan was 7, my husband and I really just kept this to ourselves.
So now he has a support community too, which is such, I mean, that's just probably, we did it too, though. Like we have said so many times, I wish, and we luckily recently have met someone in the, with the same diagnosis as Eddie, who's an adult. Well, he's an adult. I say he's a kid, but he's like 20.
He's an adult, Kristen.
He's an adult.
He's an adult man.
And see how his life is. And because so many times we're like, well, what is Eddie's life? What's the possibility of what Eddie's life's going to look like? We don't know. You hear so many things. And especially, I'm sure it's the same for you. With so many diagnoses, it's like the quantity of life was so much smaller 15, 20 years ago. They were saying, oh, this diagnosis, your life expectancy is X or whatever. Now, everything is so different. Medical advances are so much larger. So it's like, that doesn't help me. I need to see with my own 2 eyes someone who's like only a few years ahead, but doing this and having surgeries that weren't around 15 years ago. I just need to know what things are looking like in front of us.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And if we don't share our stories and talk about it, then we also can't share information. I've had dozens of people DM me on Instagram wanting to know about who these surgeons are, because Brendan's had 3 surgeries at this point. Who have we used? Therapists, and where have you found therapists? And it's just, it becomes this wonderful sharing network. And also for the kids, for Brendan, for all those years, people in the community, they were always so kind. People are, for the most part, very kind, but he wasn't invited really to birthday parties. Like, he wasn't really invited to play dates because people knew that he was like this great boy, but he walked with, like, I like to call it a big swagger.
Yeah, and he's got natural swagger.
Natural swagger. But once we shared our story and everyone knew, quote unquote, what the deal was, it was like the arms were just wrapped around him.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not invading their privacy, or we're not putting them out. Like, yeah, he can come to the birthday party. Yeah, he can do that. So it's really a gift for everyone when you share, and then the kids feel proud.
For sure. I think that's the key. They then feel proud versus they're concerned, or they feel like they're a burden, or they feel like anything on anyone else. Instead, it's like, oh, my mom's proud of me. Look at what she's sharing about me. Little Eddie says all the time, when can I be on your podcast? Or when,
that is adorable.
Like, who'd you talk to tonight? And what'd you talk about? Did you talk about me? Like, he's super excited about everything we share with everybody else versus being like, don't talk about this. Don't talk about that. Like, he's not before it would be like, don't tell anyone I have braces. When now he's like, what'd you talk about today? Who'd you talk to? Did you hear I got new braces? And I'm like,
and that's
so
because
different.
You guys as parents have opened the door to that, because you talk about it so freely. You've shown him that this is like not something to feel bad about.
We've normalized it.
Like, shine your light, and you guys are shining his light, and therefore he can shine his own light.
Yeah. Hopefully he does that as he gets older too. And he's his own advocate. That's the key right there. Right.
Oh my gosh. The way you have to advocate is amazing.
It happens to everyone.
Yeah.
So where can everyone find you? Where can everyone find Sage Spoonfuls?
So we're on Instagram at Sage Spoonfuls, or if you want to follow me personally, it's at Liza Huber. If you want to learn more about Sage Spoonfuls, it's sagespoonfuls.com.
Easy to find. Awesome.
Easy to find.
We really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us and sharing your story.
I just want to say, if anyone has a child with CP, please feel free to DM me at Liza Huber on Instagram, because I'm so happy to share my resources, our doctors, our surgeons. Please feel free to reach out. Oh,
then that's awesome. Tremendous. So many times people are always looking for someone to connect with, and ours may be nervous to kind of reach out and ask those questions. So it's awesome for you to kind of welcome that. Well, of course, again, all about sharing, right? Yes, exactly. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much. We really appreciate having you on, and keep in touch with us. And let us know how everything's going. I will. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right, bye. Well, thank you so much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, please make sure you share with a friend and leave a review. You can find all the resources mentioned in this episode on our Facebook or Instagram on @SpecialAboutSpecial. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.